Thanksgiving is approaching quickly, and so is a lot of Arctic air from the north. We've seen some changes to our forecast for late November and early December. So today's video is just going to be focused on getting you up to date with the latest forecasts. It's November 21st, 2025. Let's get into the weather updates. One of the first things I always do when I wake up, especially because I love winter and snow, is I check the latest updates when it comes to total snowfall. And I'll tell you this, a lot of these globals shifted the snow north through the end of November and beginning of December. But it's interesting because a lot of times you'll see this happen because the trough de-amplifies on a lot of these global models. So the cold air isn't really down there in the south or in the Ohio Valley that allows that snow to fall. But in this case, we're still seeing all of that cold air get very far south. The issue is the moisture that's linking up with it. The timing isn't correct, or there's just not enough moisture in general. But I will say, if you're hoping for some snow, potentially Southern Plains, Ohio Valley, maybe even Southeast, although it's tough to get it this early in the season, we are expecting a more extended cold period here for the beginning of December. We have our polar vortex disruption, and we have what looks to be an extended negative NAO setting up. So if you don't see any snow at the end of November, beginning of December, where we have some of these Arctic blasts heading down here, don't be discouraged. December looks pretty chilly for a lot of us, so there's going to be a good amount of chances, and especially before Christmas, for a lot of areas to get that chance at snow that they haven't really seen that early on in recent history. I'm going to quickly run through the latest snow updates. We're going to get into our future forecast, talk about severe weather, so let's get started. I don't really want to use the end of the model here, so we'll push out, we'll say 10 days, but you can see the latest Euro looking pretty good potentially for Des Moines, Minneapolis, Milwaukee, maybe Chicago gets involved, Detroit, we'll have to see. And then New England also can get involved here. And some of this is actually looking like it could be coastal snow. The GFS is trying to put snow a little bit farther down to the south here, although I will say this is later in the run, so I'm not so sure about this. Although again, a nice winter storm pattern is setting up for the plains and out east. So something like this happening in early December is completely on the table. Now, of course, the GFS is still giving lots of snow up here to the northern plains, and then here into Michigan and inner New England. And of course, all of these models are showing a ton of snow for the Rockies here. Not a ton in low elevation out west, although this right here, obviously this is farther in the run though, would be a little bit of snow for low elevation. The Canadian is just not bullish on snow at all. Although at the end of the run, it does have this big snowstorm heading into the northern plains, northern Rockies, Great Lakes region, and inner New England, but it's really not bullish. Taking a look at our European AI, it is trying to put snow a little bit farther down to the south here, and it's been consistently doing this for more than 5 runs. And I addressed this in my last video. The AI models tend to not change as drastically from run to run, and I think it's because they're learning from our non-AI models' mistakes in the past, because the AI models are training off of historical data. I also wanted to show you what's going on with our GraphCast. This would be around the 29th of November, so just a couple of days after Thanksgiving, maybe even just the day after Thanksgiving. It does kind of agree with the Euro and the GFS. It has a big snowstorm pushing down through here. Snow for the northern Rockies, northern plains, upper Midwest, Great Lake region. Maybe this gets down into the Ohio Valley, and then this would probably scoop up here, trying to bring some snow to coastal New England, maybe even the New York City region. We'll see, but it's a pretty good signal for a snowstorm on the GraphCast. Of course, this model right here is a next-gen AI model. This is really supposed to be the new standard moving forward, so we'll see how it does. It hasn't had much time yet in winters. It's really been training over the last 2 winters. It was created in 2023, so we'll wait and see how it performs, but it is kind of agreeing with the GFS and Euro. Okay, so now let's take a look at our forecast moving forward. And why did all that snow shift up to the north? Like I said, it really doesn't have anything to do with that cold air not making it down to the south. This troughing pattern is still projected to be quite amplified and bring that below freezing air down to the south. It's an issue with the moisture linking up and the timing of the moisture linking up with this cold air. And by the way, if you don't believe me, here's the Climate Prediction Center's 6 to 10 day temperature outlook. This cold air is coming for the south. Obviously a little bit of a southeastern ridge and still a little bit warm out west, but this cold air is coming. And then if we look at the 8 to 14 day temperature outlook, this cold air is expanding even out towards the west, and again, southeastern ridge. I'm sorry, Florida. So here we are Friday. We've got some moisture moving through the southern plains. This is going to start to shift out to the east. Low pressure system here. Tail's going to whip through some of these states down here, Dixie Alley, and we do have the chance for some tornadoes and hail down in this region. Probably some damaging winds associated with these severe thunderstorms as well. This right here is our 2% risk zone today. You can see it includes a lot of Mississippi, really central to northern Alabama, and then it does include a lot of central Tennessee as well, including Nashville. And our categorical risk is about the same size, so you could see some wind and hail in this region as well. All right, so as we move through today, we also have some cold air pushing into the northeast. You could get some flurries up in the mountains, but we're pretty warm from coast to coast. We have another low pressure system pushing into the southwest, and we have some more moisture pushing into the Pacific Northwest. Getting into early next week, Monday, this is when our kind of pattern change starts to take place. This is the beginnings of our polar jet collapse up here. You can see the jet beginning to buckle up to the northwest, and we have some snow flurries trying to push down into the northern Rockies. Now we have another low pressure system pushing through the southern plains. Again, this is probably going to come with a severe threat, and I do think that severe threat may be actually beginning on Sunday evening into Monday, so we're going to have to watch the southern plains. And then, of course, this is going to transition out to the east, as our weather does here in the northern hemisphere. It's going to transition out to the east and potentially bring more of a severe weather threat out through Dixie Alley and the southeast. So we'll watch that as we push through next week. Now, as you see, as I push forward into Tuesday, there comes that collapse of our jet. This is going to begin to push all of this warm air out, except for this ridge of high pressure down here is going to say not so fast. That's as far as you're going. And we do have a little bit of a ridge building out here in the west. That's why you see warmer temperatures for the southwest and for the southeast as we move forward in time, while the rest of the country begins to cool as we move into Thanksgiving. All right, all of that moisture pushes off to the east. This is the day before Thanksgiving. Here comes all this cold air continuing to rush in, and we have some more moisture funneling into the northwest. It's a mess up in New England. At least that's what the Euro sees the day before Thanksgiving. So what's it look like on Thanksgiving? Here's the latest Euro. Maybe a little bit of snow funneling into the Great Lakes region, into New England. Probably some good lake effect snow from all of this cold air moving over the warmer Great Lakes. We also have this cold air continuing to buckle into the plains and out east, with a big storm system now beginning to move into the northwest. This is Thanksgiving evening. We push into the day after Thanksgiving, and the Euro says, hey, we have a big snowstorm moving through the northern Rockies, northern plains, upper Midwest, that's headed right through the Great Lakes region and likely into New England. Again, the mountains up here in New England are going to do pretty good early season. Now we're getting a little bit far. This is November 30th, but our polar jet is continuing to buckle. We've got a lot of moisture down here in the south, another storm system moving into the Rockies, and that storm system moving into the Rockies is going to want to put more snow in the upper Midwest, in the Great Lakes region, and likely in New England. Again, these northern tier states in the plains and out east are really seeing a lot of snowfall if these models are correct here over the next 250 hours. Although again, we'll likely see some adjustments. Let's quickly move into our temperature anomalies. The northeast is a little bit below average right now, the west as well. That's because we have some storm systems moving through it. But for the most part, the country is average to above average here as we move through really the next 4 to 5 days. Now again, getting into Thanksgiving time, here we go, the 26th and 27th. Here's our first push of very cold air. Here's kind of the beginning of that jet collapse. This is Thanksgiving afternoon into Thanksgiving evening. And again, the east is getting very cold, the upper Midwest, Great Lakes region, New England. We push past Thanksgiving. Here's another burst of cold air. Like I said, the cold air is there. This is cold enough for snow down into the Ohio Valley and into the central to southern plains. But do you have the moisture availability there? Maybe not. We'll have to see. And then moving through early December, maybe a brief warm up. And then look at that. This could be the coldest air we've seen since last winter. Another push of cold air. December is looking aggressive. We've been saying it for weeks. It continues to look aggressive. That being said, let's take a look at why. Let's look at our updated teleconnections so we can see how long might this cold stick around. Well, with the latest European weeklies, our AO, our Arctic oscillation, at least on the control, is staying negative until potentially Christmas, where it tries to go positive for a little bit and then dive back down south for the beginning of January. Moving into our EPO, which represents a large Alaskan ridge. Again, this helps to funnel a lot of cold air into the plains and out east. This is a very, very cold signal for us continuing to move forward, really for much of the states. Taking a look at our NAO now, which is for my mid-Atlantic and New England people who want a nor'easter. You want to have a negative NAO for that setup. Nice little dive down here through the first 2 weeks of December. Again, this typically gives you better eastern winter storm tracks. So what's going on with our PNA? Well, the latest European weekly really sees a pretty neutral PNA. I know the control is mostly positive, but we're not seeing any large peaks or large dips in the teleconnection. So there should be some room for some of this cold air and moisture to continue to move into the west. This is also a great signal for cold air and snow from coast to coast. A negative WPO allows for blocking in the higher latitudes. And if we have that in combination with an Alaskan ridge, negative EPO, and our negative NAO, which is blocking out to the east, cold air gets trapped, your winter storms are enhanced, sometimes from coast to coast, especially in the plains and out east if you have that negative NAO. So again, a really good sign for much of the country for a well below average December and potentially a very snowy December. It's looking like the models have done really well with kind of the monthly forecasting, because a lot of the stuff we were talking about 2 weeks ago is still on the table here. It still looks like this is what's going to occur, or at least a version of it. And oh boy, you want a cold and snowy December? Look at this, entering a phase 8 mid-December. This is the latest European extended MJO forecast. Phase 8 is typically pretty cold and snowy for the states, so mid-December, this is going to increase a lot of people's chances for a white Christmas if this verifies. I really appreciate you watching the video. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell if you like this type of content. I post videos like this every morning. I live stream every morning. If you want to join the Climate Crew, there's a link to my Discord right down in the description. Again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video or in the live stream.